Hello again, and welcome to Denton's Tales. And yes, it is totally wrong! Wrong, I tell you! What am I talking about, you ask? Well, stick around, and you shall see. Versions of the media, as we may call it, popular entertainment in so many forms, be it theatre, religious festivals, travelling bards and storytellers, and so on and so forth, has been with us for thousands of years. And it was discovered very early on that it could influence people. It could change attitudes. It was very nifty for propaganda. Oh, yes, getting a particular spin on things and keeping an entertained populace a happy populace. Roman emperors were among the first to utilize it to keep their subjects happy and, much more importantly, compliant. How am I going to introduce that new tax without a popular revolt? Oh, I know. I'll put on a month-long show in the Colosseum. Yes, games, gladiators. Oh, the people will be so happy with all that entertainment they'll never even notice the tax. Yes, Roman emperors were quite good at that sort of thing. Now, something that anyone who has watched my videos will know, that historical accuracy is something that I regard as very important. Now, the media frequently don't even pay lip service to the concept. Movies and TV shows are made with costumes that often bear little or even no resemblance to anything actually worn at the given period, altered historical facts, and completely modern dialogue which is totally out of place with the period being portrayed and always turns me completely off. Now, it has been said, but what does it matter if the costumes are wrong, or if nobody in the 13th century would actually have used 21st century expressions? I mean, what's the harm? It's just a movie. It's entertainment. Yes, it is entertainment, but I'm going to explain the harm. The so-called Viking Age having been particularly affected by it, and to start with, of course, the infamous Viking horned helmet is one very, very good answer to the argument that, well, what's the harm in a bit of entertainment? Vikings never wore horned helmets. I think that has finally got through to most people. Though for decades all one had to do to show that a character was a Viking was to put a helmet with great big horns sticking out of it on someone's head. Oh, look, he's got a horned helmet. He's a Viking. Movies, cartoons, illustrations, museum displays, keyring ornaments. Vikings were always depicted with horned helmets. Despite the historical fact that they never ever wore them, it would have been just as accurate to show Vikings coming ashore in a World War II landing craft. A total travesty of history, in fact. But how did it come about? Entertainment. Yes, entertainment, I tell you. Yes, popular entertainment, not television or movies, no, but popular entertainment in the 19th century on the theatrical stage, or well, the operatic stage to be precise, in Germany. The theatre was a mass entertainment medium back then, every bit as important as television and movies are today, helping to shape popular opinion. Now, costume designers for Richard Wagner's operas, in particular the four Germanic mythological operas known as Der Ring des Nibelungen, Das Rheingold, Die Walküre, Siegfried and Götterdämmerung, decided that great big horns would look ever so nice on the helmets. Oh, yes, look absolutely lovely, dear, yes. And then illustrators for popular magazines of the time began to depict Germanic historical characters, both mythological and genuinely historic, in the same way, the Vikings included. So everybody started getting these horned helmets. Thus, the total myth of the Viking horned helmet was born. It was created by popular entertainment of the time, the theatre being a very prominent and popular aspect of life back then, just as movies, TV, dramas, and soap operas are today. So, a form of popular entertainment could create a totally false, but internationally believed fact that was about as genuine as fire-breathing dragons or giant sea monsters. In the case of the Vikings, TV dramas and often questionable historical documentaries totally redefined the Vikings, well, pretty much across the board, with themes from popular entertainment replacing actual historical fact. I mean, even calling them Vikings was wrong in itself, since they were only Vikings when they got in a ship and they went somewhere. in that ship. Be it, well, raiding, trading, exploring, founding new settlements, or just watching the coastline go by. Oh, look at that. Isn't that lovely? What a nice day for a sail. The weather's so nice. Yes. Viking was a seafaring-related term that required a ship. Now, when not at sea, they were Norse. They were Danes, Swedes, Norwegians, Icelanders, or Frisians. The term Viking was an occupation, not a nationality or a culture. I mean, one could go Viking, til fara I vikingar, as it was in Old Norse, but one could not be a Viking. You know, I laughed at all the times in the Vikings TV show when they would say things like, "We are Vikings," or "Never forget, you are a Viking," and similar phrases, which of course they would never have actually said for the very good and sufficient reason that they weren't. They never called themselves Vikings. The term was an activity, not a personal noun. Nor did anybody else at the time call them Vikings. I mean, Northmen, heathens, pagans, Norsemen, and probably a lot of very obscene terms too, after they just burnt down somebody's village. But other people would hardly have even been aware of the term as a seagoing activity. We do see TV Norsemen who are Vikings. Yes, they are Vikings in that they are going off in a ship to do whatever they're going off to do. But fully armed and armoured from head to toe, every one of them, helmets, chainmail, swords, looking like a professional army, often with matching shield designs. Really lovely. Oh, lovely to look at, very impressive. But again, it is pure entertainment fantasy. I mean, looks good. Oh, it's really booyah, yes. But it's very far from the truth. Very, very few men would have worn chainmail, or indeed had a helmet. Those things were extremely expensive, as were swords. The iron wasn't all that easy to come by in Scandinavia. And many men would have worn their everyday clothing, and they would have carried weapons that they used in their trades, such as, axes, pitchforks, and sickles. Spears and bows used for hunting they'd have been equally effective as combat weapons. Only the nobles and their personal retainers would, as a rule, have been armoured and carried swords. Of course, weapons and armour could have been acquired by ordinary men from the dead bodies of vanquished opponents, and just clean off the blood and away you go, sort of thing. But by and large, the ordinary men would not have had things like that. You see, Viking raiders, they were not professional soldiers, nor were they professional raiders, for that matter. They were part-time fighters, part-time raiders. They were fishermen, farmers, blacksmiths, leather workers, and so on, who basically went raiding in their spare time, and, as I said, often using the tools of their trades as weapons. Only a very few would have been raiders 24/7, 365 days a year, and even they would have been constrained by the weather. Winter storms at sea were avoided as much as possible. So every raid carried out by entire shiploads of heavily armoured men brandishing military weapons, it simply didn't happen, dear. No. But so many people have thought that it did, thanks to the media's misrepresentations. Now, the Anglo-Saxons were very much the same, actually. While the kings, the thanes and their retainers would have been fully armed and armoured, the huscarls were proper soldiers, the bulk of the Saxon army was the fyrd, ordinary citizens called upon in time of need, and just like the Norse raiders, wearing their own clothing and armed with whatever weapons they could get hold of: axes, hammers, fish or boar spears, bows, large knives, and so on. But still quite a formidable force, even if only by sheer weight of numbers. TV shows and movies have also given the impression that the Norse people dressed in masses of fur. Huge, great fur collars, fur cloaks, fur everywhere. At times it's hard to tell them from a grizzly bear when you're looking at them. And they also had very kinky modern biker-style leather. Ooh, very kinky leather, yes. Quite unlike anything actually worn in Scandinavia. Real boiled leather doesn't actually look like that. Norse clothing was very similar to clothing in many other parts of Europe at the time, but with very distinctive Scandinavian decoration, embroidery, and jewellery which set it apart, none of which, of course, ever actually appears on a TV screen. Good heavens, perish the thought. Throughout the whole series of the popular TV show Vikings, I never once saw a Norsewoman dressed in the most popular Scandinavian female attire, which was a long underdress with a shorter pinafore over it, held at the chest with a chain and two large oval metal brooches, and coloured glass bead necklaces. No, never saw it. No, nor did the men seem to have any brightly coloured decorated tunics with distinctive Norse embroidery. Oh, no. So, the women all wore vaguely medieval dresses that could have come from pretty much any European country at the time, in that, well, they were sort of medieval and they were European. And the leather-clad men, well, they looked more like extras from the Sons of Anarchy series. But many people watching, of course, would assume that's how the Old Norse actually dressed. I mean, there it is. We're looking on TV. Well, surely they got it right. Oh, you naive fools. Many people, as I say, would assume that's how they dress. And why wouldn't they? The curse of popular entertainment struck again. Oddly enough, they usually seem to get the ships more or less correct. Not quite sure how that happened. Oh, well. I think I made my point about the distortion of history by popular entertainment, where writers and directors don't take the trouble to even do a tiny bit of research, or even call on, say, reenactor groups to help, most of whom do actually have correct costumes. No, they take no trouble, they take no research, they'll even use terminology that they don't actually understand because it sounds good. I'll leave you with a classic example of movie production where nobody actually knew the meaning of a word, but they used it anyway because it sounded so good. Oh, now this has nothing to do with Vikings. No. This was an outer space epic, the first Star Wars in a galaxy far, far up. You know the drill. Han Solo says how the Millennium Falcon did the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. Bragging about how fast his ship is. My ship did the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs, and everyone goes, whoa, yes, oh wow, talk about speed. Yeah, see, the problem there is that the slowest old cargo ship with a worn-out engine would have done it in exactly the same, because a parsec is a unit of astronomical distance, not speed. It means 3.26 light years, which is roughly 19.2 trillion miles. So to say that a ship did a run in 12 parsecs, well, that would be like you saying that you went from London to Glasgow in 401 miles. So did everybody else there. I rest my case as to the effect of popular entertainment on historical fact. I hope you enjoyed the video and that you will join me in the next one. So for now, I shall say goodbye, farewell, until we meet again.